and the Attack of the Giant Tarantula. Chapter 1, Half-Price Special. Swoosh! Robert sank into his beanbag chair. His book bag slid to the floor. A book fell out. Harry, the Invisible Dog, read his friend Paul, picking it up. Another dog book? Robert had read almost every dog book in the class library. It was taking him a long time because he was a slow reader. It's the best I can do, since I can't have a dog. Why do you want a dog? A dog wags his tail when you come home from school. He's so glad to see you. He slobbers you with kisses. You also have to walk him. I know, said Robert. I wouldn't mind doing that. Why don't you walk dogs for people? Any dog will slobber on you if you let him. Robert laughed. That's a good idea. Paul always had good ideas. Robert tore a sheet of paper out of his book and wrote, I walk dogs, $1. You may have to feed them too, said Paul when Robert showed it to him. Robert wrote, I walk and feed dogs, $1. Paul looked at it again. What if someone has a dog and fish too? Robert chewed his eraser. He wrote, I take care of pets, $1 each. Should fish cost as much as dogs? Asked Paul. You have to walk a dog. You only have to sprinkle dried flies into a fish tank. Paul thought of everything. Robert tore out a new sheet of paper and wrote the ad over again. Yeah, said Paul. He got ready to go home. Don't forget to add your phone number. Right, said Robert, writing it in. He looked at his ad and smiled. After Paul left, Robert made 2 more copies of the notice. He asked his mom to put one up at the Super Shopper. He asked his brother Charlie to put one up in the pet shop when he went to the mall with his friends. The last one went in Robert's notebook for the bulletin board at school. Robert couldn't wait. Maybe he'd have a dog to take care of soon. Chapter 2. Customer number 1. Attack of the Lizard People, said Charlie. Nutty Professor too, said Robert. Friday was family night when the Dorfmans ordered pizza and watched movies. Charlie liked case scenes, explosions, and scary monsters. Robert liked movies that made him laugh. They flipped a coin. Charlie won. He popped his movie into the VCR. A band of lizard people was fighting an army of giant grasshoppers when the phone rang. It's for you, Robert, called his mom. Robert didn't mind missing some of the movie. It was getting pretty gruesome. Wings and tails were flying everywhere. This is Esther Glass, said a woman. Is this the person who takes care of pets? Yes. I live on Oak Street, the woman said. Her voice was shaky. I'm going into the hospital. Can you take care of my birds while I'm away? Sure, said Robert. When he talked to his parents about his new business, they said that he could only take jobs that were close to home. Oak Street was only a few blocks away. He wrote down Mrs. Glass's address. The next morning, Robert stopped at Mrs. Glass's to pick up her house key. She was old. Robert watched carefully as she showed him how to feed the doves and clean their cage. This is Billy, and this one's Flo, said Mrs. Glass. They looked exactly alike. I'll miss them. You will take good care of them, won't you? Robert saw tears filling her eyes. Yes, ma'am, he said. Every day, Robert got off the school bus a stop early to go to Mrs. Glass's house. He fed the doves. On Fridays, he took extra time to clean their cage and line it with newspaper. In school, Robert's class was preparing for Earth Day. They had to write or draw about something that was not good for the earth. Then they had to make a suggestion for fixing it. Robert drew a picture of a truck parked by a river. A man was dumping a barrel of black stuff into the river. A police car had pulled up with its sirens flashing. Nearby, in a park, a boy was drinking from a water fountain. Over his head was a cartoon balloon that read, "Yuck, this tastes funny." "That's so cute," said Suzanne Lee Rogers, stretching over his shoulder to look. Robert didn't see how polluting a river could be called cute. "Thanks," he said. "You take care of pets?" "Uh-huh. Why?" "I have a job for you." Robert looked up, scratching his neck. "What kind of job? Do you have a dog?" "It's—" "Okay, children," said Mrs. Berthnall, their teacher. "It's time to clean up." "Later," said Suzanne Lee, hurrying back to her seat. That evening, as Robert struggled with his math homework, the doorbell rang. Robert heard his mom's voice. "Suzanne Lee, how nice to see you." What was Suzanne Lee doing here? Robert wondered. He came out of his room and thumped down the stairs. Suzanne Lee held a small plastic tank in her hands. "Hi, Robert," she said. "I didn't finish telling you today, but this is the job I have for you." The tank had a lid with small holes in it. Robert hoped it was on tight. Inside the tank was the biggest, blackest, hairiest spider he had ever seen. It began to move.